Jeopardy! Please welcome our contestant. Player one. And now, here is the host of Jeopardy, Alex Brevet.
Thanks, Johnny. Welcome to Jeopardy, everyone. Good luck to you in the Jeopardy round. For this game, the categories are as follows. Tongue twisters. 21st century history. A billion reasons. It all adds up. Stars and their roles. And novels' first lines. Player one, where do we start? Orwell. Mr. Jones of the Manor Farm had locked the hen houses for the night. Here's the correct response. Animal Farm. Player one, choose again. Fitzgerald. In my younger and more vulnerable years, my father gave me some advice that I've been turning over in my mind. Here's what we were looking for. The Great Gatsby. Select again. Tolstoy. Well, Prince, so Genoa and Lucca are now just family estates of the Bonapartes. Okay, player one.
Yeah!
You got it. Select again. Golding. The boy with fair hair lowered himself down and began to pick his way toward the lagoon. Here's the correct response. Lord of the Flies. Player one, you pick again, please. Charlotte Bronte. There was no possibility of taking a walk that day. Here's the correct response. Jane Eyre. You get to pick again, player one. She was magazine editor Miranda Priestley, who fiendishly wore Prada. Here's the correct response. Meryl Streep. Select again. He was Julian Kay, an American gigolo. Here's what we were looking for. Richard Gere. Player one, back to you. In 2005, this actor walked the line as Johnny Cash. Here's the response we were looking for. Joaquin Phoenix. Player one, choose again. He was Charlie Chaplin in a 1992 biopic. Here's what we were looking for. Robert Downey Jr. You again, player one. He was Heathcliff to Merle Oberon's Cathy in 1939's Wuthering Heights. Here's what we were looking for. Laurence Olivier. Select again. It's 7 plus 7 plus 7 plus 7 plus 8. It's player one.
Yeah!
Player one, back to you for our next selection. 3 plus 53 plus 100 plus 153 equals this. Player one. Yeah, good.
Yeah! Woo!
Player one, you pick again, please. 1012 plus 255 plus 11 equals this. Let's hear it, player one. You got it. Please pick again, player one. 144 plus 244 plus 344 equals this. It's player one. Player 1, back to you. 1144 plus 1793 equals this. Let's hear it, Player 1. That's right. Way to go. Player 1, pick again. And I'll hand it off to Jimmy.
Abraham Lincoln began appearing on billions and billions of pennies in this year, the 100th anniversary of his birth.
Player 1.
Yeah.
Good. Please pick again, Player 1. According to its website, this chain serves more than 1 billion finger-licking good chicken dinners annually. Player 1. Good. We return to you, Player 1. Forbes magazine has estimated that this comic book boy is worth $24.7 billion. Here's what we were looking for. Richie Rich. Player 1, back to you. The only event the Time Almanac has listed under the heading 4.5 billion BC is this formed. Player 1? That's not it. The correct response is Earth. Select again. This eccentric billionaire formed an aircraft company in 1934 to design racers. Here's the correct response. Howard Hughes. You again, Player 1. In 2001, she became the first First Lady to win elective office, becoming a senator from New York. Player 1. Nope. Sorry. Here's what we wanted. Hillary Clinton. You get to pick again, Player 1. This 2005 hurricane was the costliest natural disaster in U.S. history. Player 1. Yes. You again, Player 1. It's the Daily Double.
Yeah! Woo!
You are currently in the lead. How much? Okay, here is the clue. Benedict XVI succeeded this pope as head of the Roman Catholic Church in 2005. Correct. Player 1, you pick again, please. This cabinet-level department, established in 2002, includes FEMA, the Coast Guard, and Customs. It's Player 1. Right. Player 1, back to you. In 2004, 7 countries that were once Soviet allies were admitted as new members of this military alliance. Player 1. Good. Player 1, choose again. She sells seashells by this location. Okay, Player 1. Hey, you're right. Please pick again, Player 1. In Hartford, Hereford, and Hampshire, these windy storms hardly ever happen. Player 1. Right you are. We return to you, Player 1. One of these animals sat on a stump, and thunk the stump stunk. Yes, Player 1? That's correct. You get to pick again, Player 1. These animals shouldn't sleep in a shack. These animals should sleep in a shed. It's Player 1. Correct. And the last clue for $1,000. The sawingest saw I ever saw was the saw I saw in this land of opportunity state. Okay, player one.
Yeah!
Yes. The Double Jeopardy round will begin right after this. Categories for the Double Jeopardy round are a side of Kevin bacon, mythological words and phrases, bestsellers of the decade, South American countries, under the sea, and Latin American history. Let's get back into this now. You have control of the board. Kevin had to go to space camp before playing the role of Jack Swigert in this film. Here's the correct response. Apollo 13. You get to pick again, player one. Kevin had a cup of coffee in this 1982 Barry Levinson ensemble piece with chums Mickey Rourke, Paul Reiser, and Tim Daly. We're talking about Diner. Player one, choose again. Holy triskaidekaphobia. Special effects guru Tom Savini had an arrow shoved through Kevin's throat in this 1980 flick. Here's the correct response. Friday the 13th. Select again. Kevin could handle the truth as Captain Jack Ross in this 1992 legal drama written by Aaron Sorkin. Here's what we wanted. A Few Good Men. Player one. Pick again. Kevin played Ensign Pulver in the TV remake of this 1955 movie. We're talking about Mr. Roberts. Player one, choose again. You may have this small but crucial weakness even if you weren't dipped into the river Styx by your mother. Let's hear it, player one. That's right, way to go. Player one, choose again. A very handsome young man is sometimes called this after the handsome youth loved by Aphrodite. Player one. Sorry. Here's the correct response. Adonis. Select again. Answer, one of the daily doubles. And you have the lead. What'll it be? Here is your daily double clue. A shrewish woman, or a predatory mythological creature who is part woman, part bird. Sorry, that's wrong. Here's what we wanted. Harpy. Player one. Pick again. This adjective, meaning volatile or quick-witted, comes from the name of a swift messenger god. It's player one.
Yeah!
That's correct. We return to you, player one. Sarah will present this clue.
The delightful Champs-Élysées in Paris is named for this delightful resting place of the dead in Greek mythology.
Here's what we wanted. Elysium. We return to you, player one. Jaws and Jonathan Livingston Seagull. Here's the correct response. The 1970s. Player one. Pick again. Red Storm Rising and The Prince of Tides. Here's the correct response. The 1980s. Player one, back to you. The Agony and the Ecstasy, and You Only Live Twice. Here's what we were looking for. The 1960s. We return to you, player one. Forever Amber and The Naked and the Dead. We're talking about the 1940s. You get to pick again, player one. Aerosmith and The Age of Innocence. Here's the correct response. The 1920s. You get to pick again, player one. This South American country was named for a man born in 1451 in Genoa. We're talking about Colombia. Player one, pick again. Montevideo is its largest city. Here's the response we were looking for. Uruguay. You get to pick again, player one. This country's almost 4,000-mile coastline is the longest of any in South America on the Pacific Ocean. Yes, player one? No, that's not right. The correct response is Chile. You get to pick again, player one. Answer. The other daily double. You are in the lead right now. How much? And the clue. It's the South American country whose capital city lies the closest to 0 degrees latitude. Correct. You get to pick again, player one. Let's go over to Jimmy.
This country's Bahia Mangrove ecoregion extends from Reconcavo to Todos os Santos Bay.
Here's the response we were looking for. Brazil. Player one, pick again. What do you mean I'm funny looking? I'm just this fish, also known as an anemone fish. Okay, player one. That's correct. You get to pick again, player one. It warms the depths of my heart to know you're about to tell me the name of this small edible clam. Yes, player one? That's not it. Here's what we were looking for. The cockle. Player one, back to you for our next selection. This rare fish, discovered in 1938, has been called a living fossil. The correct response is the coelacanth. Select again. Kelly?
These colorful organisms of the class Anthozoa include blue, precious, and horny species.
We're talking about corals. Player one, pick again. The blue whale is the largest member of this order of animals. Yes, player one? Yes. Please pick again, player one. Here's Jimmy.
In 1565, Portuguese knight Estácio de Sá founded this Brazilian city on Guanabara Bay.
Here's what we were looking for. Rio de Janeiro. Player one, back to you. By the 7th century, this civilization's city of Tikal in the Yucatan had a population of tens of thousands. We're talking about the Mayan. Player one, pick again. In 1541, Pedro de Valdivia, a soldier of this Inca conqueror, founded the city of Santiago in Chile. Here's what we were looking for. Francisco Pizarro. Player one, you pick again, please. In 1957, this physician and patron of voodoo was elected president of Haiti, which he ruled with an iron fist for 14 years. Here's the correct response. François Duvalier. And the last clue for $2,000. In December of 1980, a junta appointed José Napoleón Duarte president of this small Central American country. We're talking about El Salvador. Good game. You will participate in Final Jeopardy right after this. We're back. The category for Final Jeopardy today is sports business. What are you going to wait? Now, let's reveal the Final Jeopardy clue. In 1993, this man said, "What Phil and Nike have done is turn me into a dream." Let's see your response. And this correct response will add how much to your score? This makes you our new champion, Player One, so congratulations. So long.
This is Jeopardy! Please welcome our contestant. Player one. And now, here is the host of Jeopardy, Alex Trebek.
Thanks, Johnny. Welcome to Jeopardy, everyone. Good luck to you in the Jeopardy round. For this game, the categories are as follows. The 20th century. A nude awakening. Which time zone? Truman Capote. Out of this world. And foreign words and phrases. A lot of clues, a lot of categories, Player One. Make a selection. In the 1920s, this fascist leader of Italy set up a puppet regime in Albania and reconquered Libya. Okay, Player One. Good. You get to pick again, Player One. Elizabeth II succeeded her father, this man, who died unexpectedly at age 56. It's Player One. Good for you. We return to you, Player One. On February 8, 1904, Japanese ships attacked this country's fleet at Lushun, Manchuria, beginning a war. Okay, Player One. Good. We return to you, Player One. On February 15, 1965, Canada's new flag, which featured an 11-pointed one of these, flew for the first time. Player One?
Yeah!
That's correct. We return to you, Player One. On Valentine's Day, 1989, the Ayatollah Khomeini showed no love for this author's satanic verses, giving him a death sentence. Player One? Right you are. You get to pick again, Player One. In 1953, he produced the first issue of Playboy for $10,000. It's Player One. Right. Please pick again, Player One. No buts about it. David Caruso, Jimmy Smits, and Dennis Franz all turned the other cheek on this cop show. It's Player One. That's right. Way to go. Select again. Kathleen Turner and Jerry Hall weren't close-minded, playing Mrs. Her in the stage version of The Graduate. Yes, Player One? Good. We return to you, Player One. Trying to escape his teen idol image, this Partridge Family star posed nude for Rolling Stone in 1972. Let's hear it, Player One. Good. You again, player one. His nude descending a staircase, number 2, shocked viewers at the Armory show. It's player one. Good. We return to you, player one. Vancouver, British Columbia. It's player one. That is correct. We return to you, player one. Omaha, Nebraska. Player one. That's it. Please pick again, player one. It's the Daily Double. You are in the lead right now. How much? Here is your Daily Double clue. Santa Fe, New Mexico. That is correct. You get to pick again, player one. Reno, Nevada. Okay, player one. Right you are. You get to pick again, player one. Akron, Ohio. Let's hear it, player one. Good for you. You again, player one. Capote was born Truman Streckfus Persons, September 30th, 1924, in this southern U.S. city. Yes, player one? Hey, you're right. Player one, you pick again, please. She's the lead character in Capote's Breakfast at Tiffany's. Okay, player one. You are correct. Player one, choose again. He won an Oscar for playing Truman in Capote. Player one. Good. Please pick again, player one. Capote invites the world's greatest detectives to his house for a contest in this 1976 film spoof. Okay, player one. Yeah, good. Player one, choose again. Capote gained fame with this otherworldly 1948 novel about a teenager in a crumbling southern mansion. It's player one. That's correct. Player one, you pick again, please. The gravitational pull of this object is the main force holding the solar system together. Let's hear it, player one. Correct. We return to you, player one. Galileo was the first person to see the rings around this planet. Yes, player one? That's correct. Player 1, back to you. Not the first, but this second planet is the hottest because its atmosphere causes a severe greenhouse effect. Yes, Player 1? Yes. Player 1, choose again. The comet named for him was last seen in the skies in 1986 and won't return until 2061. Yes, Player 1? Good. Player 1, choose again. Like Pluto, Haumea and Makemake are designated as this kind of planet. Okay, Player 1? Yes. Player 1, pick again. Before a trip, it's proper to wish someone bon this, whether they're traveling by ship or not. Player 1? Yes. Player 1, you pick again, please. In many places of business, no zapatos, no service. Zapatos being Spanish for these. Okay, Player 1? Right you are. Player 1, choose again. Italian for to the tooth. It's how to order your pasta if you want it a little firm. It's Player 1.
Yeah!
Right. You get to pick again, Player 1. Seize the day, I tell you, but do it with this Latin phrase. Let's hear it, Player 1. Good for you. And the last clue for $1,000. Here's Jimmy to start us off.
Locomotives with a 282 wheel configuration are called this type, an old name for the Emperor of Japan.
Player 1?
Yeah!
The Double Jeopardy round will begin right after this. Let's see what happens in Double Jeopardy with these categories awaiting the players. Football. Get positive. Physical science. 19th century literature. Spelling with element symbols. And historic women. All right, if you're ready, it's Double Jeopardy time. This cup representing Canadian football supremacy was donated by the descendant of a tea namesake. Yes, Player 1? That is correct. Please pick again, Player 1. He caught the catch on January 10th, 1982. Okay, Player 1. You are correct. Please pick again, Player 1. This Cowboys wide receiver of the 1990s is in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. It's Player 1. Yes. Player 1, back to you for our next selection. Here's Jimmy.
In this type of trick play, the quarterback hands off to a running back, who hands off to a tight end going in the opposite direction.
Okay, Player 1. You are correct. We return to you, player one. To see this NFL team's home games at FedEx Field, take a shuttle bus from the Landover Metro stop. Player one. Correct. You again, player one. The book Whale Done applies the positive techniques used at this marine park to business and family life. Okay, player one. That's it. Please pick again, player one. Thriving through stress, like him conducting Ode to Joy while ill, is the idea in a book called The Him Factor. Yes, player one? Yes. Player one, back to you for our next selection. His power of positive thinking begins, believe in yourself, have faith in your abilities. Okay, player one. That's correct. You get to pick again, player one. An illustrated book pairs Alexander Calder's artwork with the lyrics to his song, Don't Worry, Be Happy. Player one. You are correct. You again, player one. Oprah has unlocked The This, a book by Rhonda Byrne about using positive visualization. Player one. That is correct. You again, player one. All 5 elements of the salt-producing halogen group end in these 3 letters. One element purifies drinking water. Okay, player one. Right. We return to you, player one. It's the lightest known stable subatomic particle. Let's hear it, player one. That is correct. Player one, back to you for our next selection. Answer, the first of the daily doubles. And you have the lead. Please enter your wager. Here is your daily double clue. Hygroscopic substances have a tendency to absorb this from the atmosphere. Good. Player one, back to you. A body at rest will remain at rest unless acted upon by a force according to Newton's law of this property. Yes, player one? Right. You get to pick again, player one. Here's Sarah. She'll show you.
Nuclear fusion in the sun's core produces energy that eventually flows to the photosphere, first by radiation and then by heat currents, using this process, also used in a type of oven.
Okay, player one. Good. Player one. Pick again. You'll find whaleboats not only in his masterpiece, but also in his story Benito Sereno and his novel Mardi. Let's hear it, player one. That's correct. Player one, back to you for our next selection. In Uncle Tom's Cabin, St. Clair, Tom's master, is killed. Tom is then sold to this brutal, drunken planter. Yes, player one? Good. Player one, back to you. In Pedro Antonio de Alarcon's The Three-Cornered This, a miller thinks his wife is having an affair with the mayor. It's player one. Yes. We return to you, player one. The last name of the title character of this Thomas Hardy novel is actually Derbyfield. It's player one. Yes. Select again. For 14 years, the Abbé Faria was his fellow prisoner in the Chateau d'If. Player one? Right you are. Player one, choose again. Helium, aluminum. Okay, player one. That is correct. Player one, you pick again, please. Neon, argon. Yes, player one. Correct. Player one, choose again. Copper, phosphorus. Player one. Correct. We return to you, player one. Tin, oxygen, boron. Okay, player one. That's right. Way to go. Please pick again, player one. Hydrogen, silver. Let's hear it, player one. Yes. Select again. This Secretary of State, whose first name is from a musical term, had originally planned to be a concert pianist. Let's hear it, player one. Good. Player one. Pick again. Shortly after her disappearance, her publisher, husband George Putnam, released Last Flight, containing her diaries. It's player one. Yes. Select again. The Moses of her people. She helped hundreds of slaves escape along the Underground Railroad. It's player one. That's right. Way to go. Select again. She met her beloved teacher Anne Sullivan in 1887. It's player one. You got it. Now let's take a look at that $2,000 clue, shall we? Answer? The second daily double. You are in first place. Player one, please select your wager. And the clue. This first American woman in space heads a company geared to girls who are interested in science and math. Right. You will participate in Final Jeopardy right after this. We're back. The category for Final Jeopardy today is poets. So, what's your wager? Our Final Jeopardy clue today is one of her poems says, "I was 10 when they buried you. At 20, I tried to die and get back to you." What did you put as your response? And this correct response will add how much to your score? You've come out ahead as our champion, player one. So long, everybody.
is Jeopardy! Please welcome our contestant. Player one. And now, here is the host of Jeopardy, Alex Brevet.
Thanks, Johnny. Welcome to Jeopardy, everyone. Good luck to you in the Jeopardy round. For this game, the categories are as follows. The short form. Name that century. Star Trek jargon. The elements. Bible belts. And da plane, da plane. Player one, where do we start? Frag, meaning to kill a fellow soldier, started as a short form of this term for a type of grenade. Let's hear it, player one. Correct. Player one, back to you. If your internist gives you a script, it's short for this. Let's hear it, player one. That is correct. We return to you, player one. Buck, as in dollar, is short for this item once used in trade and barter. Player one? Is correct. You again, player one. A cab you drink is short for this word. Yes, player one? You got it. Player one, back to you. A cab you ride in is short for this word. Yes, player one? Yes. You again, player one. Ben Franklin flew a kite and invented the lightning rod. Let's hear it, player one. Good for you. Player one, back to you for our next selection. The Impressionists exhibited their paintings for the first time. Let's hear it, player one. You got it. Player one, pick again. London experienced its deadly Great Fire. Player one? That's correct. Player one, back to you. Ferdinand and Isabella of Spain got married and united their kingdoms. Let's hear it, player one. That is correct. Please pick again, player one. Answer, the Daily Double. You are in the lead right now. How much? Okay, here is the clue. Rodent-borne plague killed off a third of Europe's population. Yep. We return to you, player one. The Type 2 of this weapon had a max power setting of 16 and could be set to heat, disrupt, or stun. It's player one. That's correct. Player one, pick again. This device briefly converts a person to energy, beams the energy, then reassembles the person. Player one? Yep. Player one, back to you for our next selection. When Spock checks chronometric data, he's looking at measurements of the space-this continuum. Okay, player one. Right. Player one, choose again. Created by Starfleet, it prohibits interference with other civilizations. It's player one. That is correct. Player one, back to you. This crystal regulates matter-antimatter reactions that provide energy for travel faster than light. It's player one. Good for you. Player one, choose again. Because sound travels 2.7 times faster in this gas than in air, inhaling it makes your voice higher. Yes, player one?
Yeah!
Correct. Player one, back to you for our next selection. Neon, argon, and radon are among these gases formerly called rare or inert. Player one? That's correct.
Yeah! Woo!
Select again. Superman knows its atomic number is 36. Yes, player one?
Woo!
Right you are. Player one, pick again. This very hard metal is named for the children of Uranus and Gaia. Player one?
Yeah!
That is correct. You again, player one. Harold Kroto and others found this common element had a new molecular form, the fullerene. Okay, player one. Good.
Yeah! Woo!
Player one, choose again. In the Sermon on the Mount, Jesus says that if someone smiteth you here, offer also the other. Yes, player one?
Woo!
Hey, you're right. Select again. After striking down his brother in Genesis, this man said, "My punishment is greater than I can bear." Yes, player one? Correct. Player one, you pick again, please. In Numbers chapter 20, after the Israelites complained, Moses smote one of these twice, and water came out. It's player one. Good. Player one, pick again. In a book named for Moses' successor, this man smites the Gibeonites, the Hebronites, and the Eglonites. Player one? Is correct. Select again. In Judges, Samson whopped on 1,000 Philistines with this part of an ass. It's player one. Right. Player one, back to you. The first commercial plane flights out of the United States were in 1920 between Key West and this nearby country. Let's hear it, player one. Yep. Player one, back to you. In 2004, this airline introduced non-stop flights between Newark and Changi Airport. Okay, player one. Right. Select again. Flying at the then incredible speed of 575 miles per hour, the Boeing 707 began commercial flight service in this decade. Let's hear it, player one. Good for you. Select again. This U.S. company created the venerable DC-10 jetliner. Let's hear it, player one. That's correct. Let's have a look at the $1,000 clue. The first commercial passenger transatlantic service was by Pan Am in 1939 between New York City and this French port. It's player one. That's right. Way to go. The Double Jeopardy round will begin right after this. Let's see what happens in Double Jeopardy with these categories awaiting the players. It's all good. Science potpourri. Opera names. Take me out to the history game. Quoth the Raven. Notice the spelling. And cooking class. Let's get back into this now. You have control of the board. It's the car battery terminal with a plus sign. Okay, player one. That's correct. Player one, choose again. It can mean far better than average or not yet settled like an unpaid debt. Okay, player one. That's right. Way to go. Player one, back to you for our next selection. The bird Ardea herodias isn't just any blue heron, it's this blue heron. Player one. That's correct. Player 1, choose again. As an adjective, it means very impressive. As a noun, it's a lavish production. Player 1? Correct. Player 1, back to you. Marvin Hagler was Marvelous Marvin. Tom Seaver was nicknamed Tom This. It's Player 1.
Yeah!
Right. Please pick again, Player 1. This age is divided into the Paleolithic, the Mesolithic, and the Neolithic. Let's hear it, Player 1. Yes. Player 1, choose again. The Oxford English Dictionary defines it as the science of man or of mankind in the widest sense. Player 1? Yes. Player 1, you pick again, please. As a visiting scientist at Caltech, Carl Sagan contributed to missions to this planet with about 80% Earth's mass. It's Player 1. That is correct. Player 1, back to you for our next selection. Gustav Kirchhoff and Robert Bunsen used this prismed scope to see the bands of colored light each element produced. It's Player 1. Correct. Select again. Named for a physicist, it's the amount of work done when 1 amp passes through 1 ohm of resistance for 1 second. Yes, Player 1? Yeah, good. You again, player one. The title figure of this Puccini opera is Cho-Cho-san. It's player one. Ooh, sorry. That's incorrect. Here's the correct response. Madame Butterfly. Player one. Pick again. This title temptress of an 1875 opera works in a cigarette factory. Okay, player one. Yes. Player one, back to you for our next selection. Amneris, daughter of Pharaoh, has an Ethiopian slave girl. Her. It's player one. You got it. Player one, back to you. Gilda, the daughter of this hunchback, falls in love with the licentious Duke of Mantua, with dire consequences. Yes, player one? Correct. Please pick again, player one. Tannhäuser and Lohengrin are knights. This title character of another Wagner opera is a pure fool. Okay, player one. Yes. You get to pick again, player one. It's 1922, and the Blackshirts force King Victor Emmanuel III to appoint this far-right fielder as prime minister. Let's hear it, player one. You are correct. Player one, back to you. It's 1649, and this king is looking kind of tired out. Yep, here comes Oliver Cromwell to give him the hook. Yes, player one? Yes. You get to pick again, player one. Answer, the first of the daily doubles. You are in first place. You need to select your wager. Answer this. It's July 10th, 1553, and this lady will pinch hit for Edward VI, who's been taken out of the game. Cousin Mary is on deck. Correct. Please pick again, player one. It's going back, and it's over the 73-mile-long wall built in the 120s AD by this slugger, the Emperor. Yes, player one?
Yeah!
Right. Player one, choose again. It's 1902, and Teddy Roosevelt is putting this junior on the bench, the Supreme Court bench, and he'll be there for 29 years. It's player one. That's it.
Yeah! Woo!
You get to pick again, player one. This character has gone psycho long before he says, "She might have fooled me, but she didn't fool my mother." Let's hear it, player one. Yes. Player one, choose again. Kathleen Quinlan finds comfort talking to shrink Bibi Anderson in I Never Promised You a This. Player one?
Yeah!
You are correct. Select again. As John Nash in this movie, Russell Crowe does quite a bit of talking to people who don't exist. Let's hear it, player one. Correct. Player one, back to you for our next selection. This Johnny Depp character tells his psychiatrist, "You are a great lover like myself." Yes, player one? That is correct. Player one, choose again. In Quills, this author muses, "My glorious prose filtered through the minds of the insane. They might improve it." Player one? Yep. You again, player one. If you boil these before making them into hash browns, they'll stick together better and cook faster, too. Yes, player one? Yes. Please pick again, player one. For the silver dollar type of these breakfast treats, drop the batter onto the griddle 1 tablespoon at a time. It's player one. Yes. Player one, back to you for our next selection. To make bunny salad, use a chilled pear half for the bunny's body and a ball of cottage cheese for this appendage. Okay, player one. Good. Please pick again, player one. Joy of Cooking suggests using these Thanksgiving berries in any recipes calling for red currants. It's player one. Correct. And we'll wrap up the board with this clue.
Yeah!
And so, the second daily double, and you have the lead. Please enter your wager. Okay, here is the clue. The Chicken of the Sea website suggests making enchiladas with the albacore type of this. That's it. Congratulations to you. You'll be continuing on to Final Jeopardy when we come back. Now, Final Jeopardy coming right up right now with this category. Military men. Please enter your wager. And now the last clue. Books about this American are subtitled Warrior as Wordsmith and The Far Eastern General. What did you say? How much do you add to your total with that correct response? Congratulations, Player One. You are our new champion. We'll see you next time.